The power of youth explodes in this episode of Boruto, which focuses on Rock Lee's anxiety-fueled son, Metal Lee. And believe it or not, this might be one of the best episodes of the entire series. Greetings, my friends, and welcome to another review of the Boruto anime series. And today's episode was certainly a pleasant surprise. I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought this episode was going to suck. Immediately when I saw the preview to it from the last episode, I was like, oh great, an episode which focuses on Metal Lee, who's basically just a tinier version of his dad. But you know what? This entire episode changed all of that. And I think I have to thank the actual Boruto anime series for that. Outside of a few scenes in the movies and in the manga version, Metal Lee might as well not exist in the series. They haven't really done anything with his character, and he's been kind of a one-note joke. He has a lot of anxiety, and because of that, he has a lot of mishaps and crazy shenanigans ensue. But when I finally looked at that angle in this episode, I realized that Metal Lee is actually a really great character in comparison to both Rock Lee and Might Guy, especially for the fact that, unlike them, he's very different, and a lot of that has to do with his personality. I mean, look at Rock Lee. He's brash, he's loud, he has no problem in strutting his stuff and showing off why he's a badass ninja. In fact, it's something that he actually relishes in, and he wants nothing more than to inspire people with his very own taijutsu style of ninjery. But then we have Metal Lee, who is just an absolute joke. He can't keep his cool, he can't complete missions. If he even stares at a member of the opposite sex, he freaking just crumbles. Basically, he's the exact opposite of Rock and Guy. And this episode finally dives into that and how his anxiety can actually be an important part of his actual personality. So, this entire episode right here revolves around Rock Lee getting ready to teach his son how to open up the 8 inner gates. He feels that it's finally time to pass on his secret technique to his son until he realizes that his son has to rely on good luck trinkets in order to cure his anxiety. He's wearing this necklace throughout most of the episode, and he feels that it's the only thing that actually gives him an edge in battle and actually being a competent ninja. Of course, Rock Lee, when he sees this, decides that he's not going to teach his son and tells him he won't even decide to teach him the technique until he can realize what his true weakness is. And most of the episode focuses on him as he tries to cure his anxiety. One of the biggest tools for this is learning from Guy Sensei. And let me just be the first to say that, wow, what a great showcase for the character of Guy. What I especially love about it is that it officially revealed that while he is indeed in a wheelchair, his ninja days are not over. In fact, in many ways, he's sort of been completely redoing his entire fighting style and can even kick your ass on one leg. This all kicks off when Guy invites Metal Lee and his team to a seminar at the Ninja Academy where he's going to tell some stories about his days as a ninja, fighting Madara Uchiha, who he completely forgets about, and how even though he has sustained these massive injuries, it's certainly not stopping him at all. And he demonstrates this by actually fighting against both Iwabe and Metal Lee at the same time, and he competently just absolutely whips their asses. But actually seeing it happen is honestly a thing of beauty. I thought that Guy was going to be relegated to being an annoying side character for the rest of the series who's always going to be in his wheelchair, and that was going to be the fully defining moment for his character, and I was really upset that that's what we were going to get, but it's not even stopping him at all. He's actually been developing his new fighting style, which is all sorts of awesome just watching it happen, and Metal Lee here just can't even like focus in the battle at all, mostly because he's being watched by his peers, and this is just another lesson for him to learn that he's going to have to either get rid of this anxiety or he's going to have to embrace it altogether. And that's ultimately what ends up happening at the end of the episode when Rock Lee actually challenges his son to a one-on-one fight. A fight which is going to feature a lot of people watching it, and if he's not able to even hit him once, there's no way that he will have the conviction or power to eventually learn how to open up those 8 inner gates. So now, it's all a build up to their battle, and I'm like, oh man, they're gonna drag this out into a 3-parter, aren't they? Nope, we actually get the battle in this episode, and it is thrilling. One of my favorite things about Rock Lee has always simply just been watching his fight scenes. They always manage to be really entertaining, and they're some of my favorite parts about the original Naruto anime series. Some of my favorite episodes involve just Rock Lee himself, and this episode was a great demonstration of why he's really fun to watch, because his entire basis of fighting is all around hand-to-hand combat. And while fireballs and ice attacks and throwing kunai are really cool and super ninja-y, there's nothing beats just a good hand-to-hand fight, and Rock Lee versus Metal Lee is great because Metal finally realizes that in order to fully be himself and embrace who he is, he has to use his anxiety to his advantage, and he sort of develops his very own fighting style in this episode. Where Rock Lee is a taijutsu master, Metal Lee is going to use his anxiety to act very erratically and make a lot of weird movements that are hard to read. It's not too dissimilar from, like, drunken-style boxing, which I think is interesting because Rock Lee has technically used that in the series before. What I love about the scene is that Metal Lee actually learns how to use these abilities in the middle of the battle. It actually initially opens up with Rock Lee just wailing on his son, but then suddenly Metal Lee just goes for broke and awakens his abilities, and he still continues to have a high amount of anxiety, even reacting to the crowd when they're making fun of him, but he incorporates that into his fighting, so like when he ducks down to cover his ears and not hear anybody, Rock Lee ends up missing him, and then he's able to flip around and use all these attacks reacting to the crowd while fighting against his father at the same time, and it's done with amazing animation. I always loved watching Rock Lee's fighting scenes, and now finally getting to see him spar off with his son is honestly one of the coolest parts of the series, and it's made even better while at the very end of the battle, Metal Lee actually ends up getting a hit on his dad, and he does it using his signature technique, the Leaf Hurricane, and while he does this, he opens up the gate in that one moment, kicking him and sending this huge shockwave through the classic Chunin arena, and it also ends up destroying a lot of things around him, so yeah, Metal Lee just got a really big power-up in this episode right here, but what I love about it is that he actually embraces who he is. He's not going to be another Rock Lee. He's not going to be another Might Guy. He's Metal Lee, he has a lot of anxiety, and he's definitely going to incorporate it into his brand new wacky fighting style. He's truly embraced everything that he is, and again, it goes along with the message of this episode, which is simply, be yourself. Have confidence. So what's the rundown on this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? I was sold on this episode when Guy literally fell out of the sky in his wheelchair for his entrance. That alone solidified the awesomeness of this episode, but I have to admit, that big fight scene at the end between Rock Lee and Metal Lee was really satisfying. The fact that they chose such a nostalgic location is probably why I liked it so much, because that's where Rock Lee sort of like showed off for the very first time. There were a couple of moments where they hinted at his true power, but that was the first time when we really got to see that he's not just a goofy character, and he has access to some really powerful abilities. I mean, I know I'm not a stranger in thinking Rock Lee vs. Gaara from the original series is just one of the best anime fight scenes of all time, but this episode right here decided to do something different while still sort of honoring the legacy of Rock Lee, but still changing it up with Metal. The fact that his personality is completely different, and seeing that brand new anxiety-filled fighting style at the end of the episode brought to mind so many memories of watching Rock Lee fight when he was in his drunk style, and the fact that Rock couldn't even completely follow all of his moves shows that Metal has the potential to do something completely different, and the fact that he does know how to actually use ninjutsu as well could really transform him into someone even more powerful than Rock and Guy at this point. It's also worth noting that I think this is like the first time in the series that we've seen Rock Lee, Metal Lee, and Might Guy all together at the same time. They've probably had a couple of scenes earlier on, but this is the most interaction we've seen between these characters, and for the most part, it plays out exactly the way that you would expect. Even at the end of the episode, after Rock and Metal's battle, they all end up hugging and declaring they're going to do 3,000 push-ups, which is just great. And everybody's completely creeped out by all of these characters just loving on each other. It's just really damn funny. It's kind of hard not to laugh at these characters with their actual, like, goofy expressions and designs. But Metal Lee still has a lot of potential, and this is definitely the most development that he has received in the series, and it's starting to make make him a little more interesting and not so one note, and I really appreciated the episode for that. The nostalgic battleground was great, the action scenes were really fantastic, and the message, of course, is completely timeless. I'm also glad we got to see more of Metal Lee's team, Iwabi and Denki. We haven't seen them for a while, and that's kind of a shame, as they're completely original to the anime version, and yet they're still really awesome in everything that they do. Iwabi, of course, is great because he just loves Might Guy. There's even a scene where he gives a speech and he starts crying like a little bitch. It is just funny. But this episode right here, guys, it's all about Metal Lee. Of course, it still begs the question, who is Metal Lee's mom? I don't know why they're intentionally trying to hide this, and I honestly thought this was going to be the episode that would give us that answer, but nope, it's still a complete and utter mystery, and maybe we'll never find out. Who knows? I was just glad to finally get some development from Metal, a character who seems kind of ignored in this series. And considering how popular Rock Lee is, I just expected we see a little bit more of him, and I really do hope we'll get to see more of that in the future. Guys, this episode was awesome. I loved it. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. It was a really surprising episode. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, but I really want to hear your thoughts about it. What did you think about this episode of Boruto? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Were you guys excited to see Metal Lee finally get some development? Are you a fan of Rock Lee, Might Guy, and their entire style of fighting? Tell me what you liked or didn't like about this episode. Let's get a discussion going, guys. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.